All right, in this video, I want to answer a few questions for brand new lockpickers as to what you need to get started lockpicking. So first things first, let's talk about picks. There's a lot of lockpick options out there, but what you need is something that is at least resembling a real pick set. So I would definitely recommend taking a look at, this is the Covert Instruments pick set. This patch doesn't come with it, but this Covert Instruments pick set, I think you can get for something like 20 bucks on Covert Instruments. I'll put a link below in the description, but it gives you the basics that you need. For single pin picking, you can ignore the rakes. They're fun to play with, but if you want a single pin pick and actually work your way up through the belt system, you're gonna want these picks, this type of pick specifically, and then obviously some turning tools. So the Genesis pick set and ones like it there's a bunch of different manufacturers you can get things like this from, but they're going to come with usually 2 or 3 turning tools that allow you to handle at least most entry-level locks, as well as a couple of picks like these guys here. This is I believe a short hook and a medium hook pick set. So first things first, some picks is critical. Some people think that they'll start out with something more like this, one of these kind of pocket everyday carry items. Although these are really handy to have in your pocket, I've not found much use for them as far as like daily picking. They're not going to hold up under a lot of wear and tear as well as just standard picks, and they're a lot harder to use. You're not going to get as good feedback. They're going to be limited in you're going to be real limited in the profile types you get with them as well. So they're harder to add on to later on down the road, but they're just in general much harder to use. So if you want to get into lockpicking, start out with a decent set of picks. That's the place to start. 20 bucks, you should be able to get that. It's not a big purchase. The other thing obviously is a lock, and a lot of people are going to start out with one of these acrylic locks. This is for demonstration purposes. I don't recommend starting at all with these. Some of them you sneeze on it and they open, and some of them are almost impossible to get open. So I think my 8-year-old, I think he was counting how many times he could open it on the first day we were picking together, and it was like something like 60 times. So he, it just depends on the acrylic lock, but you're not going to get feedback. It doesn't feel like a regular lock, and you're really not going to learn a whole lot from it. It's great for seeing the workings of it. So when you're telling a friend or something about how a lock works, perfect for that. Not good for actually learning how to lockpick. There's other variations of practice locks. Sparrows offers these progressively pinned locks. So these have numbers on them that tell you how many pins are in them. This guy's a 2-pin lock, 3-pin lock, 4-pin lock. These were fun for the first couple hours of picking, but again, they don't do a great job of helping you feel what a normal lock feels like. I didn't find they're good for kind of just the initial learning of going from 2 pins to 3 pins, etc. But within an hour or two, I was moving past these to just going right to an actual padlock. If you are going to get some kind of a practice lock that's going to give you some variation, the best one I've found, and post a comment below if you found anything that's reasonably good, but this is a Covert Instruments one, and this allows you to have some top access to the Bible, the top area where the pins retract into when you put in a key or when you pick the lock. And these grub screws can pull out, allowing you to pull out the pins and spring and progressively pin that, meaning you could take all the pins out except the first 2, for instance, when you're first getting started, and then add in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. Over time, you can change out the key pins and driver pins for more complicated ones like spools and serrated pins and whatnot. And that allows you to kind of level up as you go. However, and it's a true lock. Like, this is a genuinely like a real lock, and it's going to give you the feel of lock picking way better than the other practice ones will. But it's it is a single lock. So what's nice about just starting to learn on actual padlocks and whatnot is if you want to work on getting your actual belt, you're not going to be able to get a belt just based off of these types of locks. So you're going to want to get into picking padlocks and whatnot fairly quickly. Other recommendation is the white belt locks, like this Master Lock 1, for instance. These are junk. They're built with very low tolerances. I don't recommend starting with these, and I see most experienced pickers saying the same thing, is just go right to yellow. You don't have to pick the belts in order. You don't have to start with white and then go to yellow and then go to orange. You can skip white and go right to yellow, or even go right to orange if you want to. And I recommend doing that because when you get into yellow and orange, you start getting into locks that are built with much better tolerances, and you're going to get better feedback and learn the lock and lock picking much faster. My favorite beginner lock that I picked was this Abus 5530. I'll try to get this where the light isn't on it there. Abus 5530, tiny little lock, a little hard to hold with your hand, but it has, I think, 1 or 2 spool pins in it, and it just gave great feedback and gave me a clear sense of what I was trying to do with it. So I love this little lock. I think it's fairly cheap on Amazon, and it was a great little beginner lock. I think most of my kids have picked this one as well. So this was a good one to start with. And then what I chose to go into next, I got an Abus and a Master Lock. I mean, just check out Lockpickers, the Lockpicker list for locks and whatnot. I know there's a Master Lock that a lot of people love that I actually don't even own, I think. But one of these guys here, one of these orange locks, I put orange tape on it just to remind me which ones these were. But the Abus 5540, I believe, was the one that I did. And then later on ended up picking this Master Lock up. I think I got it on sale. And these are good orange locks to go after. There's a whole bunch of other ones. But start out on a real lock. I think that's the main thing. Start out on a yellow or orange especially, and then just go up from there. Okay, so lock picks, locks. The next thing that you'll probably want to pick up fairly quickly is a vise. You can pick up vices, like I got this guy, initially this Bessie vise. It's got like a suction cup thing, so if you've got a clean, smooth surface, you can use something like this. It was pretty cheap. I think I picked it up for 20 or 30 bucks. But the thing that really annoyed me is the suction cup would work for 10, 15, 20 minutes. And then, of course, eventually it comes unstuck, and it came unstuck, at the worst possible moments as I was trying to pick a lock. The vise becomes unstable, and that's not great. So as soon as I could, I picked up, find where I put it here. I picked up a good vise, and this seems to be one of the favorites around the community. This guy here, this Panavise, and this guy is absolutely fantastic. What I love about it is it has this jaw that just, it's, I think it gives you something like 10 inches of play to crank this guy open and closed. Does a great job holding locks. So if you're picking something like this American 1100 here, you can hold it right there and go to town on this thing, and it's not going to go anywhere. It also doesn't need to be secured to the surface. It sits great, on any table. Gives you some trays and stuff to stick stuff. So as you're picking, you can throw your extra wrenches there that maybe you aren't using at that moment, but have them handy still. So great vise. I think I want to say it's around $100. You can get other attachments for the top to hold different shaped items, like this guy here I picked up. I think this was another it doesn't come from Panavise, but it's a combination of a couple different products. I think this goes for camera gear or something. I'll put some links in the description below. But I think another 15, 20 bucks you get this guy, and this is good for holding on to locks that are aren't shaped rectangular. So if you're picking something like this is a West 917, I think. Yeah. So if you're picking something like this, it's going to hold that, perfectly and not put undue pressure on pinch points of the lock either. So really good vise. I would recommend the Panavise and this, or something like it. There's some in the lock sport community, there's some manufacturers that put out vices that are similar. Anything like that sits on the table and is stable would work great. And that's really essential once you start getting into more difficult locks. When you put a lock in a vise, you're going to get much better feedback and than holding it in your hand often, or at least I find I do. You're going to feel the pins moving a little bit more cleanly because that the clicks and whatnot are going to transfer back through your pick, and not as much into your hand. Some people like holding locks while they're picking them. I just haven't found that to be super effective, especially when you get into the more difficult locks. Other things that you're going to want probably is going to be eventually a pinning tray. You can pick up pinning trays once you start needing to gut locks. You can pick up pinning trays real cheaply on Etsy, or if you have a 3D printer, print them yourself. This guy I think was like $7 or $8 on Etsy plus shipping, and yeah, it was fine. To start with, Sparrows makes a really little set of pinning trays. I love this thing when I first got started. I kind of outgrew it eventually, but I still kind of have this in my bag, and if I'm gonna be picking locks somewhere other than my house, I'll probably throw this in there just because it's super handy to have and a good place for when you're pulling things apart to stick things. I like how this one has 6 spots for pins, but then this one has what is that, 3, 4, looks like 8 or 9 spots across here, and it gives you kind of two different variations of styles that you see in other pinning trays. Like this is a bigger pinning tray that's similar to like a bigger brother version of this guy, but it doesn't have more of that open-ended groove system. And then when you get into this, this kind of thing, this has the grooves along here, but it doesn't have, that. So, just kind of a nice little thing. I found that to be really, really good from Sparrows, and recommend picking that up, especially if you're putting in an order to Sparrows. It's, again, it's a few bucks to add on something like that. So eventually add a pinning tray to that, but start out with a good set of lock picks, work on reasonably good locks, pinning tray, and one thing too is if you can't afford a pinning tray at the moment or just need something in a pinch, one little trick I learned was you can take a piece of paper and just fold it like this. And when you stretch it out, and that gives you some ridges to play with, so you could very easily pin a lock and just allow those the pins to sit in the ridges, and you wouldn't have them rolling around on your table that way. So just another little life hack, so to speak, that you could do there. And then eventually you'll get into things like needing a screwdriver to pull a lock apart. Tweezers. This is a nice one I like from Sparrows as well. A lot of my stuff is covert instruments, but there's a few things from Sparrows that I really enjoy. That's one of them. You'll need plug followers to pull the lock apart. They come in all different shapes and sizes. And I keep this handy all times just because you never know when you're going to need the odd thing that just isn't handy anywhere else. So a decent set of, a multi-tool with pliers on it. That's important. One thing I did find is this Leatherman Arc series. I love it because everything on this tool can be operated with a single hand. So if I'm operating, a lock with one hand, and I need to get access to a pliers, and I need to hold on to something on the lock and not let go of it. Like say I'm holding a spring down on the lock or something. This pliers is really easy to use because I can just flip it open with this hand, and it's ready to go without needing to let go of anything in my other hand. So this is the again, Leatherman Arc, and I love it. It's one of the it's got like the highest fidget factor of any multi-tool I've ever had around. I use it all the time, so it's a bit on the pricey side. It's a couple $100, but it's a good investment. If you take care of it, it'll last forever. That's it for today. We will be back for more later. See ya.